Sure.
What are your thoughts about Nvidia and the implications for the market? We were talking about it earlier. It's about 8% of the SPY, which is the S&P 500, about 10% of the NASDAQ 100, and almost over 22% of the SMH. Three very popular investments. What do you see happening today after the bell?
Yeah, Nvidia certainly moved the market in the past on its earnings. We think they're going to beat on the top and bottom line, but I think the market will be looking for their guidance going forward. Are they going to say anything about China in their guidance? And then also, what are they going to say about data center growth? And that's a bit of a proxy for capex overall. There's pretty high expectations for capex growth across the big cap tech companies in 2025.
So I'm sure you've noticed, seen a lot of broadening in the market.
Yep.
A lot of the unloved sectors seeing some big gains. Healthcare has been one in recent weeks. Is Nvidia an inflection point for the tech trade in your mind? If Nvidia does well, does that mean investors pour back into the AI trade, mega cap tech, or does the broadening continue?
I think the broadening could continue. Lower rates would certainly benefit some of the beaten down sectors. Small caps, for example, I think would benefit from lower rates. But there's also a lot of liquidity out there. There's about $7 trillion sitting in U.S. money market funds. That's up from $4 trillion just a few years ago. That money would easily find its way into big cap tech if Nvidia beats.
All right. What about froth in the market and also just investor sentiment, maybe nervousness, whatever word you want to call it? Looking at B of A, they just put out a note on their flow show. They call it flow show, looking at their clients. Clients sold stocks in 9 out of 11 sectors, led by tech, staples, and financials, and hedge funds were also the biggest sellers of equities. That was last week going into Jackson Hole. Do you still think the market has that same, skittishness and concerns about froth?
Well, Jackson Hole's been an inflection point in the past, so I think there probably was some risk. We've seen a lot of volatility earlier in the year. Volatility's really tamped down quite a bit in the last couple of months, but I think there's a risk. With risks at both sides of the Fed's dual mandate, I think we could see weaker employment numbers going forward, but also maybe a uptick in inflation, and maybe the Fed disappoints on that second or third rate cut. So I think it is a volatile time in the market.
I want to go back to what you were saying about small caps. Heard a lot of people talk about small caps. Small caps have rallied in recent weeks, but they're still underperforming the broader market overall. What is really the case for small caps? Is it dependent on cuts? Because Jade Powell, he kind of leaned dovish, but we got some very big, potentially market-moving events. We got PCE coming up on Friday. We have the jobs report. Just those two could completely change the Fed picture. Is there another case for the small caps other than rate cuts coming?
I think small caps maybe are positioned a little differently in the past. Historically, you'd want to be in small caps as the economy is accelerating, typically coming out of a recession. So think like the second quarter of 2021, we had a strong small cap rally. I think there's a world in which we avoid a recession, which we think we will, but we get some rate cuts. Because remember, small caps are notably more highly leveraged than the larger cap companies. So I think if we avoid a recession and we get a couple of rate cuts, small caps could really benefit. And they're cheap right now.
All right. Can you give us one sector that you would advise clients to put money to work in ahead of Nvidia earnings today? It seems like a lot of people are just kind of standing still waiting for this big moment, but is there one area that's at least somewhat safe to put money to work in today ahead of that?
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Well,
we like big cap tech overall.
Yeah.
We think that the earnings power of big cap tech is strong. So I wouldn't be lightening up on tech going into Nvidia earnings.
Nvidia has earning due to after the bell today. If it holds above $185.50, I'll go long, and if it stays below $182, I'll go short. The information provided here is for general informational purposes only, and does not constitute financial, investment, or trading advice. The views expressed are those of the author and may not reflect the actual performance or outcomes of any particular investment or stock. All investments involve risk, and past performance is not indicative of future results. You should always consult with a qualified financial professional before making any investment decisions. The author, creator is not responsible for any losses or damages directly or indirectly, resulting from the use of the information provided. Any trades or investments made based on the content shared are solely the responsibility of the individual making those decisions.